The Safe Third Country Agreement is being challenged in a federal court. It's a pact with the United States that prohibits people from entering Canada from the U.S. and vice versa at official border crossings and asking for asylum. Advocacy groups say the recent immigration crackdown in the U.S. means the agreement should no longer apply. The CBC's Linda Ward has the latest from outside the courthouse.
Well, Andrew, lots of protesters here, rally just wrapping up here. And what's at issue for them is they say that the United States is no longer a safe place for asylum seekers. Of course, this agreement signed some 17 years ago in the wake of September 11th, where it was said that people couldn't enter into Canada coming through the United States and seek asylum here, and vice versa. They had to seek asylum where they first arrived, a safe country in which they first arrived. And many people here today saying they don't believe the United States is a safe place anymore. Now, that rally included Alex Neve from Amnesty International. You had some strong words calling this a reckoning point for Canada. Why?
Well, it all revolves around that word safe, and from our point of view, the absolutely irrefutable reality that the United States is not safe. It's actually a place of great danger these days under Donald Trump for refugees and asylum seekers and migrants. And the reckoning, therefore, for us is, are we going to continue to maintain this agreement and this notion that all is safe in the United States, and thus essentially stand with Donald Trump, give him a bit of a nod and a wink? Or are we going to stand with refugees who are facing the brunt of this full-out assault on their rights? And I'd say that the reckoning point is for us to make that choice and know that we need to be on the side of rights and justice and not on the side of a government that has unleashed a cruel campaign against refugees.
Thank you very much. This isn't the first time that Amnesty International, Canadian Council for Refugees and other groups have mounted this challenge. It was successful back in 2007, overturned on appeal because there were no actual people who had been affected by this involved in that case. So what these groups did is they went out and they found those who had been affected, and we've been hearing some of those accounts in the court today. Cases like a woman from El Salvador, one of the lead litigants here, who had arrived in the United States fleeing targeted attacks from gangs in her home country. She wasn't allowed into Canada, even though she had a husband who was living here. Also, a Syrian family, another litigant in this case, where they fled the United States after Trump took office. And also, as well, we're hearing a case of an Ethiopian woman who spent a month in jail, a week of that in solitary confinement. She called it the worst days of her life, Andrew.
And so what's the federal government's position on this?
Yeah, so the federal government would like to see this completely dismissed. They say that the United States has a decent system of its own, that they have their own checks and balances, and they say that there's not really any negative effects that will be felt as a result of this Safe Third Country Agreement on those refugees. Now, we did hear from the federal government, but only in a statement. And in response, they say many of the concerns raised by the applicants have been limited by American courts or are still undergoing legal challenges, have no application to Safe Third Country Agreement returnees, and or do not preclude access to protection. Of course, the federal government doesn't want to open up the border to refugee claimants coming in from the United States. That poses some challenges to the immigration system here. Some people are afraid that it might open the proverbial floodgates. But here, what we're hearing today is 45,000 people have entered into Canada via unofficial border crossings in the last 2 years. And here they're saying those are hardly floodgates. We're also expecting, as of the most recent federal election, that the Liberal government had promised to modernize the pact. What that means here, they say they're not exactly sure. But in the meantime, this case is going on here in federal court for the next 5 days, but we expect it will be some time after that until we get a decision. Andrew.
The CBC's Linda Ward in Toronto.